Hi everyone, this is Akanksha Meena, India editor of Labels and Labeling magazine. And for today's interaction, I have with me Mr. Anantshree Chaturvedi, Vice Chairman and CEO of FlexFilms International, the films arm of UFlex. Anantshree manages North America and Mexico region for the company and is based in Kentucky. He has a vast experience in the flexible packaging industry and has worked in India, Egypt, Poland, USA, UAE, and Mexico. And in fact, he spearheaded expansion of UFlex in USA. So thank you so much for taking time, Anand, for this interaction.
Thank you for having me, Akansha. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So in this video, we will discuss developments in FlexFilms International and trends in the packaging, flexible packaging industry. So I would like to kick off the conversation with the first question. I heard that FlexFilms is looking to expand its operation in new markets and production capacity. So if you could just tell us a little about that.
So for us, our philosophy is very simple. We expand into markets that we're already seeded in, where we have a significant market share of, I would say, 30 to 60%. And so the markets that we expanded in 2020, where we made plans to expand there in 2019, were Russia, Nigeria, and Hungary, where we're the European market, the African market, and the CIS, the Russian region market, where we already had a significant market presence. We also expanded our existing locations of Poland and Egypt, and we made we now are expanding in South India, where again we have a significant market presence, and we have some expansions coming up for other products in the Middle East and in our Gujarat liquid packaging aseptic division. But for us, the philosophy is been simple: create a market, have a customer base, and then expand capacity to go local so that you can deliver just-in-time inventory to the customer with better service and better logistics and technical support.
That's interesting. And so this expansion plan is because of the reason that FlexFilms is growing vastly, and you're looking at new markets to hyper localize your operations. So how are you growing? How is FlexFilms growing in general?
So we've been very lucky, Akansha, that we have been growing on average, I would say 30% a year since our inception in the mid 80s. But if you really look at our growth trajectory, for us, we have periods of growth, and then we take pauses. So for us, we had a growth period in 2004. We set up the Middle East facility. Then we took a pause for a few years. 2008 to 2015, we went to seven different locations globally, ranging from Egypt, Poland, Mexico, the US, and then we took another pause for a couple of years, and then our last expansion, we went to 3 new locations, in terms of geographic new locations, and then 5 new facilities, and then now we're adding India and the Middle East, with a new plant in the Middle East, and a few expansions happening in India. And really, I mean, we take breaks where we consolidate and then we expand. So overall, it looks like that we're always expanding, but the truth is, we do take these little pauses to consolidate in the middle, to improve our product portfolio, to take account of our service levels and what we're doing better, and to really also witness and watch how the market is working out and where the traction of the market is and where the market is progressing. So for us, expansion happens in a very organic manner, and our last expansion was exciting because the company decided to do all of it all at one time, and we're the only film company in the world that did 3 new locations and 5 new plants at the same time. Now that was a very, very interesting and unique challenge. And that was something I was very, very pleased to do, but it was also quite a task to get it done during a pandemic.
That's interesting. So speaking of product portfolio, are you working on any new products, especially in terms of sustainability and
So for us, sustainability is something that we've been working for. I would say in the out of the U.S. and out of our America operation, we've been doing sustainability work for the last 10 years or more. In terms of UFlex, we started our journey for sustainability in 1995, where we won our first Davos Award for the invention of MLP waste recycling system, which is the multi-layer plastic waste recycling system. But the truth is, sustainability only caught traction in 2018 for the industry in general. So our solution to sustainability is our solution of Project Plastic Fix, which solves the stock and the flow problem of polymers. And we solve the stock problem by a combination of MLP recycle waste, pyrolysis, which in our case, we do it completely anaerobically without any oxygen, without any carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide emissions, as well as our Shell CS PCR film, where we collect essentially, plastic bottles off the street, clean them, reprocess them, and make film out of it. And then the flow problem we solve with our Flex Enzyme biodegradable film, which again is a completely organic solution where it biodegrades into organic biomatter, sugar, glucose, and ants and bacteria eat it. So for us, we've been looking at this. We have a holistic solution to the sustainability question. And there we have lots of new exciting products, and even today we continue to create new products. With different variations of biodegradability, soil, marine, home compostable, etc. We're also looking at different kind of plant-based, biosolutions and things like that. But it's there's products that we have that are already very good. There's products that are improving, but it's also the market, consumer demand, and regulation that I think will drive the sustainability equation to its natural equilibrium in the future.
Interesting. So when you mention Project Plastic Fix by UFlex, could you give us a brief outline of what the program is about, and if you are expanding it in India, especially in India?
Sure. So the program is 4 parts, as I said, right? The first part is our MLP, our multi-layer waste recycling program, which basically takes all kinds of trash, whatever it is, all kinds of waste, reprocesses it and makes new products out of it. Whether it's benches, whether it's chairs, whether it's machine parts, whether it's cores, and what we want to do with this program is encourage, all thousands of entrepreneurs all over the world to take up and see waste as wealth, which a few entrepreneurs today in the world see it as, there's large companies in the US like Waste Management that already have this formula figured out, and that they're using it. But this is something that can go far and wide because of just the large number of consumers and consumerism that exists today. So that's one part of it. Pyrolysis, making energy out of waste plastic, is the second part of that equation. It's more popular in developing countries than I would say in developed countries, where energy requirements are higher. But also, as consumerism goes up in those countries and there's the energy demand goes higher, this pyrolysis system, where done in the right way with the right filtration systems and the lack of carbon monoxide emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, is a fantastic solution, but done with the right technology, done in the right way. Third, our PCR Celsius film, also is a fantastic solution because it literally is taking plastic waste that people have already consumed and converting it back into its original format so that people can use the same product again and again with minimum loss and minimal efficiency loss, both to the producer and to the consumer, and that's really was the key engineering challenge of that product, And then last, our biodegradable, Flex Enzyme product, which really solves the flow problem, which is that if a consumer does indeed forget or does not intend to recycle or reprocess or start even the cycle of reprocessing polymer, then simply discard it, and it will not end up in a landfill. It will not end up as waste. It will not outlive our, you know, their kids. It will biodegrade in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever you program it to do, you know. So that holistically is Project Plastic Fix. We have two locations that we're doing these MLP recycling, the mechanical recycling facilities of in India. One is in Bangalore and the other one is in Varanasi. Um, we're deploying a system of infrared technology combined with AI to sort out the waste. So, that's a very, very sort of cool sort of, niche system that I was very happy to work on with it. And then we have three global locations, Egypt, Poland, and Mexico, which are going to have these sites as well deployed by the end of this year. They were supposed to come a little bit sooner, but COVID delayed the construction and the deployment of some of these machinery. But I would say, Mexico will probably be up and running by end of October, start of November. That's what I'm looking at from a Mexico perspective, and the other plants are around the same time frame.
Interesting. Do you have any label and flexible trends that you can share with us? Any upcoming trends that you see in the industry that might grow?
Sure. I mean, in label, I will tell you the biggest trend, Akansha, is going to be sustainability. I mean, if you look at our cornerstone customer, our key customer in the United States, UPM Raflatec, which I'm happy to talk about. I mean, they are one of the largest label manufacturers in the world, and they use our PCR Celsius recycled film because, in label, you take off the film and you discard it, and the consumer is not even getting the film. The consumer is getting the paper label with an adhesive or some kind of coating on top of it and behind it that's being deployed on their wine bottle or beer bottle or soft drink bottle or whatever they're using the label as. So definitely sustainability is going to be a massive trend in the label industry because in labels it's a no-brainer to use sustainability as a fundamental cornerstone of making yourself future ready. But in packaging and in labels in general, I would say the digitalization of packaging, so a digital emergence where a customer can use their smartphone to interact with the package and learn the origin stories of the product, learn the origin stories of the ingredients, learn the philosophy of what the product is about. That will be a huge part of the future. Eventually, we will get into digital packaging that actually interacts with the consumer, where you can touch, feel, and use. There'll be a small microchip embedded in packaging, and we'll get to that point. But we are even before that point. There's plenty of technology that we carry today around us with smartphones and smartwatches and smart glasses and all kinds of smart tech that's already on us today that all of us have at all times. I mean, people can leave their home without a wallet today, but I guarantee you people will not leave home without their phone. They'll go back and get their phone, So, digitalization is a big trend. I would say another big trend is digital currencies deployed for waste to wealth systems. And this is more of a trend in the US, in Europe, and in the Western world, not so much in the Eastern world yet, because the developing world is still sort of figuring out its relationship with digital currencies, but the Western world has made its peace with the Bitcoins and the blockchain systems of the world. And so we are now coming to a point where, there will be eventually, very, very soon, a certain quantity of waste linked to some kind of digital currency or different kinds of digital currency. So a ton of BOPET, a ton of BOPP, a ton of CPP will be linked to a certain amount of a digital Bitcoin. And if you look at companies like Plastic Bank and things like that, they're already sort of starting to deploy some of these currencies that we're talking about. None of them have taken traction yet, but I believe we're very close to the point where they will take traction in the near future. But that's something that that Asia is still sort of resisting. But over time, I feel like this will be a global, phenomena where a lot of the middle people that induce a lot of waste, or induce a lot of inefficiency into the system of waste collection and waste management. A lot of that will be cut out by this, by this, by this system of having this digital currency giving complete clarity across the board. And I think the third trend that I'll talk about very quickly is just population. As global populations grow, as we reach 9.8 or 10 billion people by age 2050, these people, the most scarce resources for them will be food and water. And agriculture security, food security, along with the reduction of food wastage, will be of essential importance. And that can only really be protected by packaging, whether that's polymer packaging, whether that's glass, whether that's aluminum, whether that's whatever jute or rope or whatever people deploy to do that. But there will be packaging systems to deploy that, because without that, even if you have the best agriculture system in the world, you will need to be able to store and consume those products over a period of time. Without that, it will just simply not be possible. So, those are the three macro trends that I can, sort of identify and tell you about. Obviously, there'll be many more micro trends as well that I think your article will elaborate more on.
Absolutely. Great. That's very interesting. So the last question that I would like to ask you is that we are seeing a price increase in raw materials, and this is which in turn is increasing the price of print equipment and other materials. So what do you think are the underlying reasons for it?
So if you talk about the increase of raw materials, the one of the biggest thing is just the fluctuation of crude oil. And if you look at polymer raw materials, it's fluctuation of crude oil. That's combined with the spike of demand that came with COVID. So, COVID changed consumer behaviors. People stayed at home. They did not eat out in restaurants. They consumed more things from the grocery store, and that led to a surge in packaging demand for all kinds of packaging material. And that was an unexpected surge, unexpected spike. And the combination of that, along with the fluctuation of crude oil, led to a shortage of raw material. That shortage of base raw material, things like PTA, MEG, things that come off the fractional distillation chain of petroleum byproducts, led to raw material producers simply not getting the raw material they need to make those materials, and that led to force majeures coming across the industry. So as demand peaked and supply lowered, this delta that came led to this situation that we're in today. But I believe that things will even out in the medium to long run, and as we return to some kind of new normal, and as the world adjusts back to sort of the post-pandemic world, this this situation will fix itself. When you talk about printing equipment, I think a big driver in that also is the price of metals going up significantly during COVID. So if you really look at the price of steel and how it almost it went from $650 to $1,700 the last time I checked. I mean, that's a massive increase. If you look at we look at steel from a project construction point of view. If you look at cost of construction, steel has gone up significantly as a part of that equation for us, and for most people, as a part of that. So I think packaging equipment costs would greatly be affected by that as well. If you talk about just in terms of inputs of that. But over time as well, I believe that will equalize out as well, because the level that these commodity prices are today are they're not sustainable, and they're a result of a spike. And the result of a spike always is that a spike rebounds.
That sounds very interesting. And thank you so much, Anand, again, for taking the time for this interaction. It has been really interesting to learn about FlexFilms plans in India as well as internationally. And you highlight some really interesting trends in the industry that we all can look out for. So thank you so much again, Anand.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and make sure to click the subscribe button at the top of the screen. You can see more videos from this playlist by clicking the video on the right or click the video on the left to see all of our other videos.